How are we all doing? Lately, I've been after a game to play and sink my teeth into. And when I say lately, I mean for the best part of 2 or 3 years. I've been replaying older games, getting bored of new releases quickly after trying them, or just straight up having no interest in a new game whatsoever. Even if a load of my friends or streamers that I see that are playing it, I just can't seem to get excited about them games anymore. I'm not sure if this was like an age thing as I get older, or just in general that the games maybe just aren't very good anymore. I spent a fair bit of time trying out new games recently and hoping that I get that itch, grinding the browse section of Twitch, just trying to find something to get my teeth stuck into. Not gonna lie, most games I just close down within an hour. Goodness knows how many games I've actually refunded on Steam. I just can't seem to get that game that makes me want to play. Until New World. I mean, I played this game a lot, and for someone like me, I love my food, but I often forgot food even existed. A couple of days into the beta, I'd already found my routine. I'd wake up nice and early, turn on the computer, grab a cup of tea, you know I'm British, and I'd just fill up my water bottle and say to myself I'll grab breakfast after I've done a couple of quests. Maybe even get a couple of levels in a random skill that I was trying out. But let's just say it wasn't uncommon for me to flash forward 8 hours, my missus coming through the front door after finishing work for the day, asking what we're having for dinner, and I'm thinking to myself, I haven't even had breakfast yet. Time truly has just flown by on this game. Bearing in mind, I don't do content full time. Couldn't even call it a part-time. Yet I was able to play just shy of 120 hours in 10 days. I played from the 20th to the 30th, and that doesn't even include the downtime, which was quite sporadic at first, seeing as you know it is a beta. I was just being selfish, and I didn't really want them to have the downtime for my own enjoyment, if I'm honest. I just couldn't help but have my eyes glued to the screen. That being said, my experience wasn't perfect. For all the brilliance you see graphically, there were as many pros to cons, and I'm going to talk for a bunch here today and give you my 2 pence worth of the game that I intend to play as most probably my main game come launch day. As I'm writing this, it has been changed to September 28th. It was August 31st. I'm not sad in the slightest. Much. But no, in all honesty, I'm happy because they're going to fix the problems that were in the game, or at least do their best to, before it actually comes out. And that way, when you start off a fresh new game, you're getting the best that they can offer. There will be another beta announced for the 9th of September, I believe, through to the 12th. For me, it's just going to be a small 3-day mini binge, more than likely playing with a couple of people that maybe haven't played the game yet, or just trying out a couple of new weapons if they've got them in yet. Now, it's kind of a game that looks and feels like a mix between WoW, Skyrim, and even has like an element of old school RuneScape with the skilling system. Now, I didn't really plan on putting too many hours into this game. 1, it's a beta. 2, it's set for full release pretty soon as well, and I didn't really want to burn myself out, seeing as I've had such a poor experience with new games recently. I kind of failed on the first part. I put loads of hours in, and on the second I really didn't. I didn't burn myself out at all, which was quite interesting for me. I wanted to play every day, and I was going to sleep thinking about the next area I was going to unlock the next day, or what skills I wanted to level up. Some days even just grabbing some people to rush some levels with. I think the whole experience for this game I found to be the main thing that grabbed my attention. It wasn't any individual part that allowed me just to enjoy it. I loved the graphics, the settlements, which are all different and unique in their own little ways. The music even. It's incredible, like I was often found just humming the in-game theme while making a cup of tea and not even realising. It was pretty sad. But it wasn't plain sailing though. I mean, from the start, the character creation didn't really give me that feeling of, well, excitement. I mean, I looked at it and I must admit it needed a bit of work. A lot more variety is needed. When you actually get into the game, and I joined first up where there was hundreds of people around me, and so many people look the same. There needs to be more of a way to make you unique without going to the full colourful mode where some people going around with bright pink hair just to stand out. After the character creation though, you join up with a crew. It's an AI crew, and you find yourself going through a little cutscene, sailing into the unknown. You crash and wash up ashore, and it felt like something out of a movie. The funny thing for me was you sort of get up without a scratch yet. Your captain with the incredibly durable and safe looking solid armor finds himself on death's door, and you just end up playing a mini walkthrough tutorial that gives you the basics. It holds your hand enough to let you get through that stage, and now you're kind of ready to experience the real world in Eternum. The translation being eternal, I believe, forever, which funnily enough is what it feels like waiting for the release date to come. You'll now be at a point where you get put into a random town, which frustratingly enough is, as I found out, is not the same place as other people. Yes, you spawn there with other people, but I'd actually started the game up with a friend, and we spawned in 2 completely different zones. Now, after doing the early stage, I tried to make it to him, but my level was way too low, and I ended up dying multiple times on the way to him. I had no idea what I was doing, and it made for a very sad start, I must admit. So I just went back to the beach and joined up with the other helpless souls that I've been stranded with, learning how to make a few basic tools and starting my story with a few beginner quests, and to kill a few of those low level monsters to get me thirsting for blood straight from the off. Once these are done, you're told to head to your local settlement, and this is kind of where things get interesting. As I said before, it kind of felt like I had the right amount of hand-holding, especially as I've not really played a new MMO in such a long time, and sometimes when everything is fresh, you don't tend to keep all that information in. So it was quite nice that they purposely make you go around and do the basics. It's basically potty training for gamers. The early quests get you venturing out and about, learning the local settlement, the surrounding areas, and where you will find resources for the low level crafts. These early quests will be needed before you pick a faction. You may find everything is low level around you at first, which does help you a bit, but if you plan on doing all of this upon launch, get stuck in. It's a fight trying to get materials, and you will need to kill some early monsters very, very quickly. I've not played a release game in a while, and everything was so hard to find, especially not knowing where everything is anyway. I mean, in the area I started, the one vein of ore that I could find was in a cave, and it literally had 9 people staring at this one wall, waiting for it to spawn, and it wasn't quick. The worst feeling was when someone grabbed it before you. It was just an absolute nightmare. Now, after you've done a few of the early quests and you've gone and done a bit of the main story quest, you are now at that faction stage. And if you've watched any of the streamers before, you'll know that there are 3. Marauders in green, Syndicate in purple, and Covenant in yellow. People have their own reasons for picking which faction they wanted to go in. I went with Covenant as someone I knew was already about to pick Covenant, so we both stayed in that together, like the little sad people we were. I could tell that the main factions, in being Marauders and Syndicate, were heavily influenced by the streamers. Inside each of these factions, you'll find that there are little groups called companies, which are like player-led guilds, clans, whichever word you've got for them really. They've got a 100 player cap in each. This doesn't sound like a lot, but in reality, with the amount on each server, you found it filling up pretty quickly. And the idea is that they work together to take over different zones that everyone in a certain faction can benefit from. Now, in doing so, your company can set taxes, control the level of tiered crafting stations to allow your faction to craft and achieve better leveled gear, consumables, all that kind of stuff. You can also get certain faction buffs for you and your team. What fascinated me was that in each of the zones, you have different biomes, and travelling between them you can really see the atmosphere change with every footstep. The ground changes, some zones have different trees, others are very hilly, some are flat. Weaver's Fen, you'll find out, is just a pure swamp, and even the level of animals change as you're going around. The tiers ramp up massively in terms of leveling from the items that you get, especially the drops in higher areas. You can harvest higher tiered items such as minerals and rocks, trees. So having these different zones as you go will really help your company and the faction grow. You kind of want your faction to control some of the lower areas at first, then as the game goes on to maybe control some of the higher tiered areas. The leveling buffs will help tremendously, which I feel like is a really unique and cool thing to control. You as your faction can basically steer your own ship. That's of course if your faction is strong enough, because your faction can't just pick a zone and say it's theirs. When a faction takes over a neutral zone, it's going to cost you 100,000 gold, but that is donated via the team and the players themselves. So in a specific company, at first you'll be wanting to grind, you'll want to get some levels, but you also need to make that coin. Donating as a team will get you that zone a lot quicker. And you're not going to be done within the first hour, it will take a while. And I think in our group we were the last to get our zone up and running, and it took us a couple of days. And at first I really didn't know what I was doing. I was kind of keeping the money to myself because that's what you do in MMOs, right? You grind some money, you want to save that to buy the top gear. But at first you really don't need to here. As long as you got a little bit to sort of get by, put it in for the team. Try and get your zone as quick as possible. Because believe me, when you can start doing faction missions with your teams, you can then grind out that armor yourself, and it's the best armor by far and the best weaponry by far to start off with. Now, if there are no neutral zones, this is where things get really tense. It's time for PvP missions. If you do PvP missions as a team in other areas, this allows you to slowly break away at their hostility bar. Now this means that after a certain percentage, you as a company can get to a point where you can declare war. Upon winning the war, gives you the opportunity to have that zone for your team. Now during the beta I was a part of 3 wars, and oddly enough won all 3. I really don't know how, but 2 were for my own faction and 1 for another, which I found really interesting. You know, helping the enemy and all that. I didn't actually know you could do that at first. A friend of mine signed up and said they've got quite low spaces, so why don't you come along? I kind of thought it was pointless, but in the end it was a good experience. I mean, at the time they had 60 signed up and it was a 50v50. That's what the wars are. But he spoke common sense to me. You have to think that not all 50 that have signed up will possibly be on. I mean, I used to remember back in the day struggling to get 5 people online for a Call of Duty scrim, let alone 50v50 in a beta, which, I mean, there ended up being a lot of spaces. So I signed up and found myself battling alongside the enemy and cruising to victory as it happened. To the war side of things, it's a 50v50 all-player battle where you need to be quite tactile and actually have a strategy to win. This is done in 3 days. Yes, 3 days after declaring of war, which I think is great, even for the more casual players, as you can still organise rather than just having a war declared and having to go offline it's in an hour or so. It would have been an absolute nightmare to do it like that. So it must be to give the defending faction some time to work things out and make sure that 50 people are online. Now, they don't have to be from your team itself. They obviously can be from the rest of your faction, and of course, as I said, from other factions if needed. And you don't necessarily need to prepare too much, as you kind of gain points when you're in the war, such as kills, healing, that kind of thing. And you can always buy potions that are available in the battlefield. But probably best to have a small bunch of potions ready to go at the start, just to minimise time inside buying when you could be out there being an absolute Chad on the battlefield. You can spend any of the points that you get on potions, cannons, traps, explosives, for example, when you get down to the other team's fort. That's if you get that far. These can only be used inside the war itself. You get 30 minutes maximum inside, so it's not a huge amount of time for people to actually be on for. The massive appeal to me was that if I wasn't planning on coming on, if I had something to do, but I could just squeeze in that half hour or so, then great. And the wartime is based on the defending team's set time as well. So if your company has members that mostly play in the evening, you can just set your time for 9 o'clock. If you have a team that's, say, a little bit more earlier in the day, you can just set it for then, 5 maybe, whenever you feel like. I mean, you're the defending team, right? It should be kind of based on you. The battlefield, I think itself is done really well. Now, there are 4 flags. There are 3 in the actual battlefield, A, B and C, and 1 which I will get onto. That's your bread and butter for both the attacking side and the defending side. Lose it and you've lost. Claim it and you've won. It's that simple. Now, there is an attacking team and defending team, of course. The goal, if you are the defending team, is to stop the attackers capturing the outside flags. If the attacking team gets all 3, then they push on and break your defense, this being the fort walls. Inside these fort walls is the end flag. Now, as I said, if they were to capture that, they win the war. It's a simple concept. But the amount of excitement gained from winning your first defense is huge, because the other faction declared war on you. They thought you were going to be a walk in the park. They wanted to take that zone off you for themselves, and to defend it for that full 30 minutes, left flank, right flank, and still keep your zone feels so good. And I think they make you put that right amount of effort in for that end feeling. It's going to be a pain, for sure. It's a lot of concentration for everyone, but at the end, the feeling is insane. But as I said, I've done 3 wars, and I've managed to experience the other side as well. Breaking into the fort on the attacking side feels just as good, if not better, after all the effort of doing the PvP missions and getting ganged up on relentlessly, attempting all those PvP missions. Slowly knocking down that hostility bar. Whilst they're out there trying to break you down, trying to defend their zone, the sense of achievement is just something else. Seeing it through to the end isn't just about beating them, but the feeling of like storming their physical fort and capturing the flag right there in front of them just gives a real sense of, we've come and took this, this is now ours. And that made that a lot better for me and my company. We were all in a Discord, and at the end, the celebration with everyone together just felt really different. Considering this was an early stage beta, it was crazy. And I think that the major thing for me was that we defended ours in a war. We then left that war as kind of feeling really happy. And then as a group, we just went, should we declare war on them? And then straight away within the hour, we just went as one giant group. Ended up with sort of 75% of the war players that we actually had just doing non-stop PvP missions. We declared war on them. We took their very first zone. They were the first team to actually capture a zone. We just went and took it from them straight away. Almost as like kind of payback. They cornered us and we bit back. It was absolutely insane. 3 wars isn't enough to sort of experience everything in its full nature, but in the beta, it kind of gave me that overall feeling of, this is actually a very unique game, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to love it. Now, I have rambled on a lot, and I know I've not even got through half of what I was going to say, but I think the passion that has kind of come out for me when playing this game, it's made me want to talk a lot about it. And I think the goal for me just has to be to make more content on it, especially when the game comes out on full release. This is going to be my main game, I do believe. And I wanted to stream and play games and just enjoy myself, but I've not really found that game that I've been able to grind. Not at any point while I was actually playing the beta did I actually want to stream it, purely because I wanted to learn the game myself, or at least get a starting edge, especially where I haven't played a game like this in a very long time. And there were so many streamers were playing it, and they had all their factions set out. It was kind of like it was enough for me to actually learn from them whilst I was playing it myself. But I think going forward, I am going to make that jump, and I will be streaming this game, along with making videos on it myself. I just hope there's a few of you out there that have that same passion for this game as well as me, and you'll be willing to like this video, subscribe, and share this journey with me. I will be doing another video on the sort of pros and the cons and kind of what they can do to maybe improve the game, as well as giving them credit for the good stuff that they've done. But I think, as I said, there is just so much to fit into these videos, and I don't want to just ramble on for like an hour. I mean, I'm going to be surprised if you've actually watched this far, but if you have, then please, as I said, like, subscribe, and follow my Twitch, twitch.tv/FrenzyAW with a 3. The link will be in the description below. For now, that is all, and I want to thank you once again for stopping by, and I will see you in the next episode.